Greetings, fellow quitters, and welcome back to the Command Q podcast. We're your hosts. I'm John Pelfrey.
And I'm Maari Casey.
And we're back with another quick quip where we ponder what it's like to feel awkward. What is awkwardness? How does it work? And how can we feel a little less awkward? How can we quit being afraid of it? So this is a challenging one for a lot of people, especially perfectionists, of which I am a recovering perfectionist, and for overachievers and people who feel like they want to please everybody all the time. This is going to be a fun little, discussion. You may fear that you're like clumsy, that you act silly or come across silly, and that might hold you back from new experiences. It's like a little bit of imposter syndrome, a little bit of like, I'm afraid of looking weird or feeling weird or walking away from a conversation going like, oh, I wish I'd have said that because that would have been so much smarter than the thing that I actually said, which was, like all of those things. So to quote Mark Manson, you got to stop giving an F. Sometimes maybe that's part of it. If you haven't read that book, you should go look it up. But anyway, so warm-up question here for you, Maari. Tell me about a time where you felt awkward recently.
Okay. So I feel awkward all the time. I'm like perpetually 12 years old, so I'm trapped in middle school. So pray for me because that's hard. But I always feel awkward. I feel awkward around other parents sometimes. And it's like, especially we're going to a new school this year, which I'm super excited about. And so I've got a lot of new parents to meet. And I feel my daughter and my son are both going into middle school. So I feel like we're in a similar place when you're going to meet new people. If they're going to meet new classmates, I'm going to meet new parents. And, and some parents are very extroverted and some parents are very introverted. But when you're first meeting them, like at volleyball practice or like at the, PTA meeting or whatever, you don't know yet. And so you don't know how to approach it. And I tend to be a little sarcastic, and some people that doesn't translate. And so there's a moment, when I was with my daughter off for a volleyball thing, and you're just standing around all these parents. And it kind of like I call it like the elevator scenario where you're all in the same space. It's awkward that you're not saying anything because you're all standing in the elevator together or like outside the gym waiting for your kid. And the longer you stand there, the more like you're like, it's too late now. Like I can't keep talking now. We've been here for 30 seconds and no one said anything. So now we're just going to sit in the soup. And shouldn't they be out? You're checking your watch. You're like, it's 5 minutes. They said 1:00. It's 1:05. No one's coming out. And I'm also trying to,
and be like,
I'm trying to be off my phone so I can, try to be better about not, actually living in the moment. But then the moment is just like, I'm like, now it's been a minute and a half and no one said, why aren't these elevator doors opening? So that was my most recent one where I was just like, ugh. I messed up. I should have said like, hey guys, we're all standing outside the gym together.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing. Like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Those can be awkward situations. I guess in some ways I was trained from a young age to not feel awkward in those types of situations. Being a preacher's kid, you get used to being around people all the time in groups and somebody's got to start the conversation. And so a lot of times I'll just say the dumbest thing that comes to my head or the most obvious thing that's happening right now, just pick out something that's in the space
it's hot outside. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Sure is hot outside. These kids these days, like today I had one of them walk across my lawn. Wasn't yours, kid, was it? I don't know. I feel more awkward if I don't break the ice in that situation because then the tension builds.
It's too late. Yeah, it's too late.
Too late. So yeah, I usually just whatever comes to my mind, or I'll just like walk up and say like, "Hi, I'm John. I'm Porter's dad," and then that usually will kick off. Well, hi, I'm Maari, and and then it helps. And so, especially when it involves kids, introducing yourself as
yes,
you being the parent, then they can make a connection and go like, "Oh, I see. You're Charlie's mom. I get it. Like now yeah.
Yes, and, you're human. You belong here. Yeah.
Right. And then you can talk. Then you can start to talk. Well, our kids met, in this class, and they have these things in common, and whatever. So yeah, but I have to break the ice. If I don't break the ice, I hate it. Like I feel awful. Kelly, my wife, used to make fun of me when I was in my 20s. I'd traveled a lot for work, and I would meet people, and I was always in an airport. I was always, meeting new people all the time. And so if we were just randomly in an elevator somewhere together in like downtown Durham or something, I would talk to the other people in the elevator. I'd just be like, hey, what's up? How's it going? And she'd be like, you talk to everybody. You have to introduce yourself to the random person who's in the elevator. I just, I don't know, just breaking the ice.
Yeah.
feels more awkward to just stand there in silence. We're not in New York, you know.
I know. I do agree. I think for, the awkwardness part, your body starts to kind of react. And it's like this fear thing. Like, I don't know you. You could be a predator. Like, there is this primal part of you that starts to like turn over inside a little bit. That's like danger, possible danger. I don't know. That lady looks a little off. And it's interesting for me because I think when I feel something that's awkward, sometimes I want to poke it. I want to like, oh, I'm going to go up to that lady and tell her it's hot outside. And just in case she doesn't know that I also have a child.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know what it is. I think that's because I want to push past the awkwardness as soon as possible. So I like to go in. Other than that time at the gym recently, I usually am also in this like, yeah, man, volleyball is awesome, or like whatever. And I know it's total like dad joke mom thing, like to be like that because my daughter hates it. My son is like, oh my gosh. But I agree. It's like we're here. We should interact, right? And just push through it.
Absolutely. Well, and if you're there for a sport, you're going to be with those parents a lot over the next few months, and then probably the next couple of years. So you might as well get to know them and get to know who they are, and then that way you have somebody to sit with during the game and root together. And it's the way you build relationships and build new friendships and connections. And yeah. So awkwardness is funny because there are sort of some different reactions that you feel. Some of them are physical. Some of them are mental, emotional. Some people freeze, but some people get that like feeling in the pit of their stomach kind of deal. I guess I've reached a point in my life where I just don't care what people think of me nearly as much. And so it is rare that I feel awkward anymore. I'm not trying to prove myself anymore. So, but I do remember the situations of meeting somebody for the first time that was maybe older and a little more established, or was somebody that I looked up to a lot. And you do get those like feelings of nervousness or whatever. What do you think? Like, how do you handle that? How do you handle sort of getting over that sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach, or that like fear that you have, or that, freezing?
Yeah. I think I read something the other day that was saying like when you feel this, it was talking about public speaking, or it was talking about getting to an event where you're feeling anxious. It was talking about anxiety specifically. It was related to like kids, I think, in studying. And it was like, usually when you're anxious, which I think awkwardness, uncomfortableness, like all this stuff is the same kind of feel. It's because you're unprepared. You're going into a situation unprepared. And I think that applies, especially thinking about public speaking. Like public speaking wouldn't be scary if you were prepared and if you'd practiced and you had all those reps underneath of you. But a lot of times we walk into a speech and we're like, we've read it one time. So then of course we're unprepared. And I do think that one of the ways that you can get around that awkwardness of like a first interaction, or like you're trying something new, or you're meeting people for the first time, is just to kind of role play it out a little bit. Be like, all right, well, I'm going to go pick up my daughter at volleyball and I have a bunch of new parents. Like, what could I do when I'm there to like introduce myself? Or maybe I'm so uncomfortable because some people it's really paralyzing, and I think we're different levels of that. And you recognize that I don't do well in those situations. I'm better one-on-one as opposed to 1-on-5 or whatever. Then maybe you say like, I'm just going to wait in the parking lot, or I'm going to wait outside. So maybe I'll talk to see one parent, but I'm not going to put myself in the middle of the whole group. And I think that's totally fine. And you can stair step yourself up to like feeling more comfortable in larger groups. But I think being prepared and kind of like role playing and thinking through it, that to me helps to kind of calm that like lizard brain panic of danger, danger, danger.
Yeah. And also understanding that most of the time we're not actually in danger. Like there's no real danger here. It's just a perceived thing that's in our head because we haven't experienced it yet. For me, one of the reasons why I break the ice with people, especially strangers on elevators and things, is I want to disarm them a little bit. And I want them to know that I'm not a threat. So if we're talking about like pure like threats or not threats, just to let them know like, hey, I'm just a dude on this elevator with you, or we're just, hanging out. I want them to know that I'm not a threat. Because as a guy, even though I'm not an intimidating guy, I don't think, if you're on an elevator and there's just another woman, it can feel awkward. It can feel a little weird. So you just, break the ice, say something, and then go on with your normal day. But I think that's part of it too, for me, is just making sure that people understand that this is a safe place. We're in a safe spot together. I'm on your side. Those types of things. I try not to wear a scowl on my face because that can create some anxiety. If you smile at somebody and say hi, it makes everything less awkward, even if you're just stuck in an elevator or stuck standing there for 5 minutes and nobody says anything after that. Maybe you do say a little bit more, a little bit later. But one of the reasons for that, I feel like feeling of danger or the awkwardness is because you feel like maybe there's an unknown. And the sooner you pass that unknown and you're like, oh, I know something about you now, then everybody relaxes a little bit too. Maybe you could just take some like icebreaker cards and then be like,
everyone get one. You pass them out on the elevator. Everyone take a card. Yeah.
That would be really awkward. You're
looking this makes me think of, we should have Terry Vaughn back in, because this makes me think of Terry, our body language expert. And I know he would talk a lot about too, and you just brought this up. It's like how you're carrying your face. Like, are your eyebrows up? Are you approachable? Because when I'm looking for people to talk to, I'm looking for the person who's like, making eye contact, their eyebrows are up, they look approachable. Like if someone's doing this, I know like this is basically like, I do not want to interact with anybody.
Right.
So the more open you make yourself, and then, it is very disarming. And I think that's a great technique, because it is our human selves reacting to like unknown, like, I don't know what's the situation is. So I'm uncomfortable because I don't know where you stand, where I stand. And so it's like, as soon as you can make that feel safe for everybody, including yourself, then the awkwardness just kind of slips away.
Right. And I think part of it too is just reading the room or reading the other person too. If they are looking down and they clearly don't want to interact with you, then maybe you just don't interact with them. Like you don't have to force someone who obviously has headphones in and is looking at their phone and they're purposefully not, that's another way to avoid awkwardness too. Just don't, let them be who they are in that space. It can kind of go either way. I think you just got to read the person, read their body language, or read the room a little bit and see if it's an appropriate place. But certainly if you're hanging out waiting for your kids to come out of school or whatever it is, like to me, that's an appropriate place to sort of like open up a conversation, especially knowing that you're going to see these person. The longer it goes, and this is the part that I think is so important. If you don't introduce yourself the first time and then you come back to the same spot a day or two later and you don't do it the second time and then you don't do it the third time, but the fourth or fifth time, it does get really awkward. It gets really...
The window is closing. Yeah.
I feel like I should know you by now, but I don't. And now I feel guilty because I didn't introduce myself. And then, they're thinking the same thing on the other side too. That's the other part. And so, the last thing for me with awkwardness is recognizing or realizing that whatever fear or anxiety you have inside of you, the other person or people probably have a similar fear or anxiety. And because we're all human and we're all feeling basically the same emotions or whatever. And that understanding, having that empathy and having that like feeling of like, we're all sort of feeling the same things is another easy way to break the anxiety or the awkwardness or whatever. Is just to be like, so this is uncomfortable,
right?
Out loud.
Yes. There's a great comedian. His name is Dimitri Martin, but he would start a lot of his comedy shows with just like talking about his like stage fright when he first started, and just kind of how he had to talk through it to like be able to be now uncomfortable. And I think with awkwardness, it's like, that's a great technique to just address the fact that we're just all new here. Like we're just hanging out waiting for our daughters, or we're in the elevator together. And it's kind of funny. It's interesting too, because I think, I both have kids, and one of the things that kids struggle with too, and adults still do, is like getting past it, and recognizing the fact that like, if you're worried about yourself feeling uncomfortable, they're worried about themselves feeling uncomfortable. Like they're not thinking about you, and that we all have this kind of shared experience of like, the better we can get at handling awkward situations, the better we can like meet more people. Because you think about the situation where you feel so uncomfortable that you don't talk to people, and like you could be sitting across from like your spouse or the next person who's going to hire you, and just your awkwardness limits you so much. The better you can get at like taking that risk of, saying like, hell, it's hot outside or whatever, and letting yourself maybe feel a little dumb, like definitely gets you better at being awkward.
Yeah. I think too that because we've become a little more insular and insulated thanks to our phones and, maybe not working outside of our homes as much as we used to, or whatever those things are that, society's really changed in the last 10 years. And it does, you have to push yourself a little bit more than maybe it used to feel a little more natural. For a lot of different reasons, it's changed. And that's all the more reason to push yourself outside of this comfort zone to get back a little bit of that feeling, that human connection. I think for me, that's the part that is so important to keep in mind too, is that if I'm feeling lonely or uncomfortable or awkward or whatever, again, understanding that other people are feeling that way, and even just making little connections that seem meaningless or whatever over time, if you see those parents again over time or whatever, it does build up, and then you build a new relationship, you get a new friend, you get a new, a new connection, a new whatever it is. And just sort of keeping in mind too, that it's not like feeling awkward or being awkward is like the be all end all. It's just, that's the moment that you're in, and that life is a lot longer than that one moment. and it doesn't define you. Even if you do something stupid like slip and fall on a banana peel or whatever, to me, that's the best icebreaker. That's the best way to not feel awkward. It's like, oh,
Everybody knows you now.
I'm John. I'm the guy that slipped and fell. Yeah.
I'm the banana peel. Well,
Mhm.
I think Tim Ferriss, I remember reading one of his books early on. He was talking about how like you should get better at being awkward, like be good at uncomfortable. We called him like be better at uncomfortable situations. And one of his things was like, just go to a store and just like, or a park and just lay down on the ground and they'll come up to you and they're like, are you okay? You can be like, I'm just laying down. Like, just know that everyone's looking at you and that it's weird for them and it's out of place. And I can't say that I've ever done. He also said, go, wherever you go and get a Starbucks coffee or whatever, ask for 10% off. Just because you want 10% off, and like just put yourself into situations where it's uncomfortable and awkward. I think the more you try new things like pickleball, painting, guitar, like whatever, picking up running, any activity that's new, there's going to be that initial awkwardness because you don't get it yet. And I think the more we do this with our kids too, is like challenge yourself to be in situations where you're uncomfortable, also known as being awkward, because you do get better at recognizing this is just something that I get through and I get better at. And it's kind of like strengthening your awkward muscle, I guess.
Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. When you learn a new skill, it does feel awkward and it feels sometimes terrible, like physically, like, learning the guitar, there's a major hurdle in learning the guitar for everyone. And that is that your fingers hurt. They just, until you develop the calluses, it hurts. It is not comfortable and it's painful. But then on the other side of that pain, once you get past that awkwardness and you do develop the calluses and all that, then there's a lot of opportunity for joy and fun and, and other things. And it's kind of the same way whenever you push yourself with anything like that, there's always this point where it's just like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is a waste of time. I'm a failure. I'm just going to go do something where I do feel comfortable again. I've seen this with tennis too. I've taught a lot of people how to play tennis, and the first time they show up, everybody's awkward. Their hand coordination is awkward. Their feet are awkward. Everything feels awful. But then the people that just stick with it, the people that stay and they keep coming back day after day, week after week, within 6 months, they're not awkward anymore. They're physically, they're not awkward. They're moving well. They're hitting the ball cleanly. They're playing the game and they're enjoying it with people they've never met before. And now they're their friends and they're going out to get beers afterwards. But it's like, if you don't push past that initial awkwardness of this is new and it's going to feel for a while, then you miss out on all of that fun that happens later on.
Yeah.
So maybe just keeping in mind that you got to start and then push through however you want to look at it, the calluses on your fingers or whatever it is.
The small talk, the awkward small talk.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of all the same thing. And I can definitely tell you, I've seen and met some of the most awkward people on a tennis court ever, like they're just two left feet and all of that sort of thing. And from my perspective as a coach, it's incredible to see them a year later. I love it. It's just like, oh, that's so great. You're doing something, you've learned all these skills, you're proud of what you've done. Like everything is, their whole body language is different around it and they get obsessed and all of those types of things. And so, if you fight through that awkwardness, you fight through that initial feeling, there's so much opportunity to improve your life in whatever way that it is. And it might be in ways that you don't even anticipate or see at that time. Like, you could end up meeting your spouse or, getting a job or whatever, like any of those types of things. And I can tell you on the tennis court, I've seen all of those things happen. I've seen people get jobs, meet people and get married. I've seen you never know. Any other thoughts about awkwardness before we wrap this one up?
Well, there was something that we have written down that I thought was interesting that is kind of like looking outward. So when you're in a situation, and you and I both do this because I think we want people to feel comfortable, right? And we want people to feel like they're supposed to be a part of whatever is happening. And like look for people around you who give off signs that they're uncomfortable. And it's probably like looking down, it's like looking away, it's, trying to not make eye contact. And I think it's nice if you can pick up on that and then disarm them kind of the way that you're saying, like, oh, we're in an elevator, it's hot outside, we're doing this, because those people are looking for a lifeline and maybe they're just working on their awkwardness, like they're strengthening their awkwardness muscle. And so like, if we are really strong at being awkward, so I'm going to say maybe we're like next level awkward strength, then it's helpful for us to like reach out to them and be like, all right, let me pull you the rest of the way. And so I try to do that when I'm in situations like networking situations, situations with new parents where I'm like, I've been where you have been and I get what you're feeling. Let me pull you in a little bit and help you the rest of the way to feel more comfortable. And I think that's a nice thing to remember when you're in those situations.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
All right. Lightning round time.
Oh
So
boy.
were you awkward as a teenager? Kind of
Oh my
question.
gosh. We have to link to some pictures in the show notes of
Yeah.
me. I have no shame of showing you my like terrible 90s teenager pictures. I was 5'9" in the seventh grade, like, I don't know, like 100 pounds, 90
Uh-huh.
pounds or something. So I was and I had a bowl cut and a perm. Interesting enough, my husband and I had the same haircut. He didn't have it permed, but we had the
Oh,
same haircut at the same time. So it is, and braces. I mean, it's all kinds of just, not great stuff happening. And I loved, like, my mom was like my superhero. And so I like wore her clothes. Like she was a teacher, like all these wooden teacher necklaces. It was all kinds of stuff. So yes, I was very awkward as a teenager.
yeah. I played the tuba in the marching band, so we'll just leave it there. Yeah, definitely awkward. I think everybody's awkward in their teenage years.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yes, I mean, I played the tuba, so come on. I did learn the guitar, and the guitar helped me to be less awkward. Having a slightly cooler instrument that people thought that did help a lot. And that does also go to the whole, like, sometimes if you have a thing and you're known for the thing, it helps to break through the awkwardness a little bit.
yeah.
So definitely, moving from tuba to guitar improved my social life a little. Yeah. So how have you coached your kids through awkwardness at different stages?
Yeah. We're just getting into it because we're just kind of in middle school. So this, of course, is like the epitome of awkwardness. And it's my she's going into 8th grade. I think it's talking to her, I'm like, just being really transparent. Like, this is a hard time. Like, everybody's going through things, change in emotions, all the stuff, all the hormones and things. And it's a stage of life when everyone is, especially this age, and it again happens in your 20s, like after college, where you're just trying to figure out, like, where do I fit in this ecosystem of people my age? Because it's like, this is when your identity really starts to kind of take shape and you're like, I need to be something, I need to fit somewhere. Again, it happens in your 20s where you're like, no, I'm not a student, I'm an adult. And I think understanding, like I told her, I was like, you're going to meet a lot of different people. There's going to be things you say that are dumb. No, again, like, no one's thinking about you. They're so worried about themselves and their own uncomfortable awkwardness. Like, they're the thought that has not crossed their mind about like what you're wearing today, or that you wore it 2 days ago, or that it matched something else. It's like, everybody's really just thinking about themselves and their own uncomfortableness. So I try to like walk them through, just let it go. Like, let that fear go. Know that it's going to get better until you're in your 20s. But yeah, you've had an older child. So have you helped him in all the different stages now?
Well, I mean, yeah, he's getting ready to go to college. He's going to be a freshman this fall. And so that's a different new set of awkwardness, probably. But I will start this off by saying my dad's favorite phrase in the whole world is "this too shall pass."
Mm-hmm.
That is something that runs through my head a lot of times when I feel awkward or whatever. And it's something I've tried to teach my son too, is that everything is temporary. And
Yeah.
even in a world where we take videos or photos and we post them up on the internet, and it is on the internet forever, and we have to be aware of that or whatever, people will only talk about it for a little while, and then they're going to move on to the next thing, whoever that is, whatever that is. Everything is temporary. Everything will pass. People will move on. So that's one part of it. I think the other part of it too is we've been really, I don't know, I don't want to say we've been hard on Porter, but we've emphasized him knowing himself. Who are you?
Mm-hmm.
What do you believe? What do you like? What do you not like? What are your strengths? What defines you as a person? And the more he's understood that in himself, and of course that changes over time. Like, 1 minute, when he's like 3 years old, he's like, I'm Lightning McQueen. And he's running around like acting
Right.
like a, cartoon person. But he fully embraced it there for about a year or so.
Yeah.
And cool. So we would like just let him embrace whatever that thing was at the time. And just to reinforce this idea of, like, know who you are and be comfortable in your own skin with what that is. There's no reason to try to impress people. The more you try to impress people, the less impressive you actually are. I think that's part of like sort of learning to be cool in some ways. And I've just watched other people be cool most of my life. I'm, semi cool now, I guess, as cool as you can be as a dad. But yeah, so for me, it's like, just know yourself, know who you are, and then just be comfortable in your own skin. And if, and to go along with that a little bit, we act really goofy in my house. We dance and do silly things, and we're not very serious. And so that, I think, helps to take some of the edge off. too a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
When he knows that his parents are the goofiest people that he can think of, you know, and when he does something in front of his kids or whatever, he's like, well, that's just, that's normal, you know? So, you know, I'm always trying to be creepy or weird or whatever, or act strange in the house. Just, I don't know, I think it's entertaining and fun. So yeah, you know, create some awkwardness in your house so that they're like,
oh yeah, that's what parents are for. That's why we have kids, and make it more uncomfortable for them. Yeah.
Right. I wouldn't have had a kid if I couldn't get some entertainment out of him, you know? Like, that's part of the fun, is the entertainment. All right. So what is your favorite icebreaker activity at a professional event?
This is interesting. We've talked about this in various forms. I think I don't like to default to like, what do you do? Because that's kind of a dead end. I usually like to ask something about like, what's the last vacation you took, or like, what do you have coming up that's exciting? You know, I mean, I love talking about like the activities I do outside of work. So volleyball, basketball, travel, whatever. So I usually ask one of those. I think the question, like, what do you have coming up that's exciting to you? It always lights people up, and it always kind of facilitates conversations. So something like that is always kind of a good open-ended question.
Yeah, I like that one. I'm just going to steal that one and say, yes, I agree with you. I don't really have anything else to add to that. But I do tend to ask people the question like, so what do you do outside of work? Or what are your hobbies? What do you enjoy doing? You know, because it's always better for me to want to establish a human relationship, a one-to-one personal relationship with somebody before the business relationship. That's the way that I make the connection anyway, at least for me. So before I might know that you're a software engineer or whatever it is, fine, that's great. But, you know, what do you like to do outside, or what's your favorite food, or, you know, hey, this beer tastes really good. What's your favorite kind of beer? Like whatever those kind of things are. I always try to steer it away from business first, and then we can come back to it if it makes sense. All righty. Well, I think we've pretty much covered awkwardness today, at least a little bit. It would be really fun to have had this conversation with somebody who's like professionally awkward, as say a comedian that plays really well, you know, like a Molly Shannon kind of person. Whenever I think of awkwardness in my head, I think of Molly Shannon. I don't know why.
Yeah. Dimitri Martin is pretty good too. And you just kind of like, you feel yourself doing this when you're listening to him. You're like,
yeah. Well, her little, I don't know what it was that, you know, where she would hold her hand and then she'd, you know, breathe that. Anyway,
classic SNL.
Such great stuff. Anyway, that is all we have for today. And thank you so much for listening. This is another in our series of quick quits. And we'd love to hear from you in the future. If you have any ideas for a quick quit, you can go to commandqpodcast.com, or you can find us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and leave us a comment and just give us an idea of another topic that we can talk about here. That'd be super fun. We're always interested in new thoughts from our community of listeners. Until next time, I'm John.
And I'm Maari.
And we're reminding you that quitters can win and winners can quit. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the guest's own and do not necessarily represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Command Q or Uncompany.